Back now on The Pulse, looking at all things people, power, and politics. Here to dive into negative campaigning. Does it work? Detroit City Council member Mary Waters and Troy Mayor Ethan Baker. It's so good to see you both. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about what the subject matter that brought us to this table here today. Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, former Wayne County Health Director, running for Senate. And then we start seeing some press dropping about how he's not really, never really was a practicing physician, but indeed does have a medical doctorate from Columbia and a doctorate of public health from Oxford University. Does anything change because of this in the race moving forward, Councilwoman Waters?
It should not, actually. Did he ever say that he was a practicing doctor? That would make the difference. I can tell you, I remember some years ago when he worked for the city of Detroit, I had asked him to come over to participate in a breast cancer event. And so I asked him if he said, I am not a medical doctor.
He said that to you?
He said that to me. He said that to me several years ago.
And so,
yes, he did. So I'm assuming he has said the same thing to other people. I don't know, but he certainly said that to me. So things should not change, especially from the way that he's been pushing the various issues. I don't know if I've ever heard him say publicly that he was a medical doctor.
If for whatever reason someone in that situation in passing says to someone, I'm a doctor, and then they ask you back something like, well, you know, you've been with patients before, and then the person kind of just nods their head. In a situation like this, what's the right thing to do from a political calculus point of view, Mayor Baker?
Well, I think it depends on what the situation is. I mean, we've all been in situations where we're with a bunch of people, and you don't have time to explain in a few paragraphs what the absolute, truth of the matter may be. But I don't think that's the case here. I think this is a manufactured scandal based on what's happening in the Senate race. It's kind of how I see it. I don't think he's running to be, the practicing medical doctor of the U.S. Senate. I think it's part of his biography. I think, I'm a lawyer. I'm a practicing lawyer currently. But, we call lawyers people who went to law school and took the bar and passed the bar, not necessarily ones who have been practicing.
But if you make the center of your campaign about your medical credentials, whatever they be, and then you run on Medicare for All and talk about the healthcare system and how it needs to be refocused and retooled, being overtly transparent as he was with you, would that be more important moving forward, Councilwoman Waters?
Well, it would be very important. You need to be honest with people, be straight up with them, just as he was with me some years ago when he said he was not a practicing physician. I certainly appreciated that because I thought that he was when I reached out to him during that time. So it is very important that you be absolutely transparent.
It's interesting because the last time we had a doctor issue in politics was when people were questioning the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, and saying she's not a real doctor. Of course, social media is a cesspool, and it is what it is, and people came out and said what they said about her, right?
But people that are PhDs and JDs, oftentimes they're doctors.
Right. So what happens moving forward in this Senate race? Because you basically have two Democrats who are going at it very strongly. Congresswoman Haley Stevens is like the Michael Jackson meme, just sitting back eating her popcorn and watching this fight explode in front of her. Does this help from, again, I know you're a nonpartisan mayor, Ethan Baker, but when you look at this from a political calculus point of view, can the party afford this kind of a fight this early?
I mean, I don't think so. I think the winner of all this is Mike Rogers. From the Republican standpoint,
is he the one eating the popcorn like Michael Jackson?
He's eating just as much popcorn. I mean, but and next week it'll be something with Haley, and the week after it'll be Mallory again. I mean, that's just the way it continues to go until August, and they'll have the Democratic nominee, and then they'll go on to the general, and they'll be fighting Mike Rogers. I mean,
what about the old digital footprint that Abdul El-Sayed and McMorrow have had to defend in recent weeks? Basically, McMorrow complaining about the weather, all kinds of other things about comparing California, yearning for the days of where she was from. Does any of that stuff carry on to the polls? Do voters, when they go to vote, keep these things in their minds, Councilwoman?
It depends on the voter. Some
do.
Yes, some do. Absolutely. Some voters are extremely picky about what you say and about what you do. So, yes, some of them will. It won't be a significant number of them, but every vote, in this instance in particular, really count.
Does the Democratic Party, can they afford right now to have this kind of fighting, or should they be more united? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they ought to be more united. If you recall, at the Democratic Convention, Haley Stevens was booed by the progressive wing, and that certainly did not help things. So what does it do? It festers on and on and on, and it really does lower the spirit in the party.
Let's talk for a moment about that, because it was AIPAC money, the pro-Israel money that had been funneled into the campaign that she had used. That was the big object of objection at that particular convention, when people were screaming and yelling and hooting and hollering. Ethan Baker, how does the geopolitics of the world affect the Democratic Party? I know this sounds kind of a fancy way to say it, but literally what happens in Israel, what happens with Gaza, what happened in those places, it matters here today, does it not?
Well, of course. Well, and we've got residents that we represent that are deeply affected by family members here and abroad who are experiencing some of these things in real time. I think we also have to recognize the parties are not, although it's a two-party system primarily, the parties themselves are split and have different factions as well. And we're seeing that certainly with the Democratic Party as a more progressive wing versus a more traditional moderate Republican, or excuse me, Democrat, and same on the Republican side. I mean, that's just the way it works. So it doesn't surprise me to see this kind of fissure happening and play out. Certainly, they've been united in their hatred of Trump on many levels in the Democratic Party, but you've seen the issue in Israel and Gaza really divide a lot of people.
I wanted you to touch on that too, Councilwoman.
Yeah, well, I just think that, when I look at the three different candidates, I'm thinking long term, November. What happens in November? Who can really win in November? And I believe that's Haley Stevens. She's more mainstream Michigan.
Well, and I know that she has a lot of the manufacturing folks, people she worked, and she takes a lot of pride in having worked for the White House in the administration. I think it was under Obama, right? And she did a lot of auto stuff during that time. Ethan Baker, the fracture in the Republican Party, what does that look like? Is there, are there people like the Megyn Kellys and the Ann Coulters and the Tucker Carlsons and Marjorie Taylor Greenes who are now anti-Trump? Is that a real thing that reflects back in the Republican Party as a whole?
I think it does. I mean, the media plays a role. Those are media personalities primarily that are going to drive some chatter down into the grassroots. But I don't know that it ultimately matters. People here, like in Michigan and Metro Detroit, we're talking about issues that are affecting our daily lives. We're not so much concerned with what Megyn Kelly's saying or Tucker Carlson's saying. So, yes, it plays a role in some attention-grabbing things, but ultimately people care about how much things cost, how much gas prices are, what's going on with infrastructure, as you see.
Let's talk about the governor's race in the minute we have left here. Where do you see things shaking out? And where do you have your finger on the pulse with that one?
Well, I've got to tell you, Jocelyn Benson, she started campaigning, so her numbers did increase. I know that Mayor Duggan is campaigning all over Michigan in all 83 counties. I think that he will go up. He will continue to go up, and it could be a potential upset in November.
The latest poll numbers show that Duggan was a little bit lower than he was in January. Does that, what changes that?
Well, he will continue to work. Believe me, the man will work. His numbers will go up. You have those indie people who said they are undecided. All right, watch out. Those could be Duggan voters.
I do wonder about the polls, Mayor Baker. I mean, 600 people polled here, 1,100 people polled here. Have we learned that polls just aren't what they used to be?
Yes and no. Sometimes they're extremely accurate. We've had polls the past couple cycles that have been right on the mark. I think with Mike Duggan, though, the issue is the Republican Party, the primary has gotten very active with Perry Johnson coming into the race. And so there's been a lot of attention between Perry Johnson and John James and the other candidates, of course. And I think that has taken Mike Duggan out of the news a little bit, and that his poll numbers are affected by that. So if he gets back in the news, his poll numbers will go back up.
I think Mike Duggan will get both Democratic and Republican votes in November.
And a lot of people are keeping their money in their war chest for advertising all over the place.
Remember what MEA did a non-endorsement. Yep. That helps him.
Councilwoman Waters, great to see you as usual. Mayor Baker, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you both. Netflix facing a lawsuit accusing it of addicting users and spying on kids. Social media expert Ethan Lloyd weighs in. You're watching The Pulse.